Hi, everyone. It's Melanie Warner here. Just wanted to say thank you for being here for our Defining Moments TV show. I'm super excited to be here. I have a very special guest today that I'm going to introduce you to in just a second. First, I just wanted to just kind of give you a background about the story and why we're doing this show. I'm a self-help junkie. I don't know about y'all, but anything to do with personal development, professional development, anything that's going to help my business grow. Um, I've been involved in self-help as long as I can remember. Since I was a teenager, my dad forced me to read, Dale Carnegie and How to Win Friends and Influence People and all that kind of stuff. So it was really funny. I got actually in trouble when I was 15 years old for taking my family car before I was old enough to drive. And my punishment was I had to read this book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And I was like, I don't need that. I got friends, And my dad was an attorney and a judge, and he was teaching Dale Carnegie classes even when I was born. So this was a really big thing about positive thinking. And it's kind of funny because he made me read it, and I had to report back on the chapter and had to remember and memorize the mantras at the end of each chapter. So, things like a man's name is to him the sweetest word in any language. Like, I still remember this stuff. And I had to record it and report back to him. So I was so stubborn that I would only do it when I wanted to go to the mall or go play video games or something. Back then we had to go to the mall, you guys. Like, those of you that are, under 40, you probably don't remember that. But we didn't have like video game consoles. I mean, eventually we did. We got like Pong and all those kind of things. But the point is, I had to I had to leave the house to go play video games or go to the movies or go do anything. So I was really grounded. And it took me a few months to get this figured out. So anyways, that was my foray into self-help. And the funny thing is, my dad did it to ground me, but little did he know it was going to really ground me for life. And it got me into self-help at a very young age, at 15 years old. And from that point on, it led me into things like Norman Vincent Peale and the power of positive thinking. And I just always felt so safe in that world, like this bubble where if I had something that I needed a solution, there were other people that already knew how to solve it. And then eventually I ended up working with Tony Robbins, and he became a mentor. And my life came full circle recently when he actually hired me to be a trainer for his company. So it's kind of a trip when your mentor hires you to mentor other students and other people. And so it was kind of like realizing my life had come full circle. And the funny thing is, my dad's life has come full circle because not only have I written lots of books and become a best-selling author, but so has my dad. And this is his book, Volume 1. And Volume 2 is coming out in 2 weeks. In fact, he will be a guest on our show next week. And we'll be talking to you about his journey at 86 years young, being an author. And so the reason for the show is really just to connect with people. This is a nice little hangout. We can see your comments there in the in our chat here. So if there's something that you want to talk about, please feel free to say hello. Let us know what your thoughts are. If there's something that we're talking about that resonates with you, just feel free to jump in. This is interactive. And the purpose, again, is also to bring in experts and people that are not only authors or best-selling authors, but people that have the ability to help you resolve something in your life. And a big problem that's going on right now in the world, it's pretty much an epidemic, is a mental health crisis that we have in our country. So the fact that we have so many incredible and talented people, not only that have written books, but also that are coaches or consultants that have tools that have been through these kinds of things that can really help you and help me remember that we don't have to go through this alone. And so I want to welcome our guest today because Leah is a phenomenal mother and wife. And it's amazing what she's accomplished in her life. And reading her book, first of all, Leah, I just have to say, your book made me bawl my eyes out on so many levels. It was so beautiful, and it was so raw, and it was so well written. So real quick, I want to introduce you real quick, and so that people know a little bit more about you, and then we can jump into your book. So welcome, Leah, to the show. Thank you for being here. And you're joining us from Canada, I believe, right now.
Yeah. Yep. I'm actually in Quebec right now.
Oh my gosh. And earlier you text me like, oh no, I think we're getting a tornado warning and I may not be able to be live. And we're dealing with fires here in California. So it's like, come hell or high water, we're going to do this show live, So thanks for being here.
Oh, Molly, I'm so happy to be here. And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So I was talking a little bit about your book, and I just want to bring this up here for a second. So your book is called Living with Dirty Glasses, and it's how to clean those dirty glasses and gain a clearer perspective of your life. And it really is equating the vision that we have for our life. Sometimes it's as simple as just being aware that we need to clean them, right? We're living with these dirty glasses thinking we have to just deal with it, and we're not consciously aware of what we're doing to create that. And it's really about healing with empathy and helping people get through anxiety and other things. So, and Leah, tell us a little bit about you and your book. And also, I want to know about this name here. Because when I first saw this, I thought, wait a minute, is that a typo? So the author's titled name is Leah spelled, it's spelled Ligia.
Yeah. So I go by Leah, spelled Ligia. My name is actually Spanish. It's Ligia Elena, but no one ever says it right. So that's been the story of my life since I was a little girl. Everyone always pronounced, especially first encounters with my name, it was always Ligia, Lagaiga, Luigi I got once. So like every combination. And it's always been kind of entertaining how people approach how they're going to say my name, because no one ever thinks Ligia. I thought this was probably the most honest and, thread throughout my life of I'm Leah, spelled Ligaa. Just because, even as a Spanish speaker and I approach people who speak Spanish, they even mispronounce my name. And my mom recently told me that it's actually a Greek name. So I'm just like a mismatch of everything. But no, I just always have gone by Leah since I was a little girl. And it's always just been spelt that way. I've never changed it. So I thought that's my story. That's me.
So that's how it's spelled, Ligia, but pronounced Leah. So that's how you run it as an author, so that people understand how to say your name. I get it.
And it's just kind of memorable, right? Like it still keeps my name as Ligia, like my roots, but because I'd have friends say, "Oh, that's not your name. Like, why are you changing your name to suit other people?" And this was kind of a way to reconcile those two worlds. So, yeah. But anyways, my book, I had it in my heart for a long time that I was going to write my story. And at first I had it in my head that it was going to be about a father and daughter relationship, and what happened to daddy's little girl kind of thing. But I did this interesting exercise that I found through your course, and it was like a self-hypnosis type of guided, not self, well, it's a guided hypnosis.
Fear, overcoming the fear of rejection, that
Yeah,
exercise that we teach people. Yes.
exactly. So I was doing that, and it just took me back to other pieces of the puzzles that were missing, because I had written this book probably 3 or 4 times before I had met you. And I burnt my manuscripts and gave up on it again and again, because it was a tough thing to write. But, it was one of those things that, woke me up at night, or, I'd get that drive to do it again, and then just feel so overwhelmed by the process, but still so called to write it, to tell the story. And I think a lot of that was driven because in some of my more desperate days where I didn't know how to come out of what I was going through, I was, mentally I was so hijacked. I had no idea, one, what was wrong, and, why I couldn't stop it. And I knew there was something better, but I couldn't get out of that pain cycle. And, it was a book that helped me see that there was another path, that someone could go through something awful and come out the other side. Because I was surrounded by people that were in a lot of pain and that were suffering. And, it didn't give me tools. Like, I didn't want to be like them. I just saw myself stuck there. But to see someone that had been through it, learn their story, and be so infected by their energy and the colorfulness. The book was by Sark. You see her posters and stuff around, but that was the book that really it planted a seed for me. It planted the seed that I could have the life that I believed that I could have, that I had lost hope about having. So
I love that. And I want you guys to think, that those of you that are watching, I want you to think for a second about a book that changed your life. And if you can, put it in the chat. We have a combined chat here with a lot of different social media pages, so we can see it here. I'd love to know, what is a book that changed your life? What's a book that made such a difference? One of my favorite quotes is from Kafka, and it says, "A book is like an axe that breaks the frozen sea within us." I remember the first time I ever heard that, it made me want to weep, because it was just so powerful to realize that a book and words and somebody else's pain even could become purpose for somebody else who was struggling through something, and give them hope. And it made me want to be an author, and it made me want to figure out how to, have impact and create projects and work like that. And so for me, I mentioned earlier, it was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Later in life, it was The Seat of the Soul, right? By Gary Zukov. And Oprah Winfrey and Tony Robbins both told me that book changed their life and their business forever. Now, when you hear that about these two powerful people, you kind of go, I should read that book. I mean, doesn't it make you curious? So not only did I read the book, but I got to know and work with Gary Zukov as a mentor. And he wrote the intro to my book, which is up there behind me, my very first book that I wrote, because he gave me some words of healing after my son died. And it was just like, boom, like this instant transformation of looking at the pain in a different way. The pain didn't go away. The circumstance didn't change. My son didn't come back to life magically, right? He helped me look at it a different way. And so, thank you. Hey, Laura, good to see you here. Laura says, Freeing Your Mind from Memories That Bind by Frances Liddauer. Ooh, I love that. So that's the thing, this is why I think we do what we do, is we want to be able to help other people connect with books like that. And maybe some people said it was fiction, like Chronicles of Narnia, Other people, maybe it was a self-help book or a business book that helped you have a breakthrough. So like Leah, when I looked at your book, and I was reading some of the things that you put in your early chapters, I love that you said on this one part, you said, I look back on that version of myself and I feel great compassion for her. And I want to take her in my arms and give her the strongest, most loving hug and tell her, I want her to know that she is stronger than she knows, that she is brave and beautiful, and she will change the world. She just doesn't know it yet. And it just makes me get chills, because that's how a lot of girls are. This beautiful little girl that went through all of this pain and trauma that you experienced as a child. And then you see how it gets stuck in us, and we repeat these patterns as adults. And this is where a lot of anxiety and depression and mental health issues that are becoming bigger and bigger in our country, a lot of it is coming from, this pain that's unresolved in childhood. So if you would share with us your defining moment and what helped you go from feeling this broken, like really person that had no hope, to like, what was that transformational moment like for you?
Well, definitely that first book, just it really got to me, just hearing those words be read back to me. Just like, I feel that so much, like, because I think of all the stuff that we go through, and if we just had a little more compassion for ourselves, how much we can help ourselves. But a definite defining moment. The first major one was reading that book. That started me on the path, but I was still tripping over myself. But the next biggest defining moment for me was when I was pregnant with my second child. I was on a drive to a play date. I had a little girl at the time. She was about 3. And yeah, I was pregnant with my son, maybe about 6 months or something. And I felt it was a great morning. Nothing had happened. But on the drive, I had felt like, I call it like the Boa Constrictor moment, where I felt like all of a sudden everything was tight, and I couldn't breathe, and I didn't know what was happening to me. And I had the wherewithal to pull over and let it go through. But I was going through a panic attack, and they had been happening more frequently since that pregnancy. And I just would find myself trying to hide. And when I would feel it coming on, or just like, just try and stay busy. That was like my biggest coping mechanism, was stay busy, like just to kind of ward it off. But when it came on while I was driving like that, that really scared me, because here I have 2 other lives that I'm responsible for, and I don't know what's happening to me. Like all this work that I've done, and I still don't understand what's happening. So, I went home that night, and I started looking up, because I literally thought there was something wrong in my chemical makeup or something. Because at the time, they were saying all about these imbalances. And when I was in the hospital, they were trialing me on these medications, and I didn't like how I felt when I was on the medications. Like, medication works for some people, and that's fantastic, but for myself, it was just, I always felt like a guinea pig or a zombie, or just the side effects were so heavy, and I didn't want to go back there. But I was desperate for a solution. I needed to find, I couldn't keep going through that. I had other responsibilities and a family. So that's when I started looking up. It was a course online. It was through the local counseling center. And I found this one that described everything I was feeling. Like, do you feel like there's a storm coming on? Do you feel like, you're out of control and you don't know why? And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And I realized, I signed up for that course right away, and I realized what it was going through was anxiety and panic attacks. And, I didn't know that the flashes, of whether it was a flash of feeling I would go through, or the flash of, visual memories. I didn't know that was post-traumatic stress. Like, I didn't know all these things, but, you just kind of live with it and keep going, and you just don't know. And you don't think you have a choice,
Mm-hmm.
So I think going through that course was the first time I realized I have a choice. I understood, 1, what was happening, 2, that I wasn't alone, and 3, there was tools available to help slow that process down. And it was so humbling, Melly. I can't even tell you. It was so humbling to realize that I was causing my own anxiety. I was generating the frantic thoughts. And, at first there was a part of me that just wanted to fight that. You don't want to, I don't want to feel like this. Why would I do that? You fight that part of yourself. But I came to a point of reckoning, because I was so desperate for an answer, to get better. I thought, okay, if I am the problem, that means I'm also the solution. I
That
also
is
have the
so
power.
powerful and so empowering, because I think the point is, sometimes we get sucked into this vortex and we feel like the victim vortex, and it's so easy to blame other people, right? It would be so easy to blame your parents, or blame even your husband, or like other people. It's just easier to blame other people. But when you realize that your thoughts, it was Louise Hay that really kind of brought that into the world of saying, you become your thoughts, and your thoughts become your outcomes. And I think it's incredible to think about, when you realize you do have that choice, and you said, if you realize you're the problem, then you have the power to make it the solution, right? And sometimes we just need tools. Like, some of us are doing okay in our lives, and we just want to do a little bit better. Maybe we want to lose weight, or maybe we want a healthier relationship. We want to make a little bit more money. We want to launch a business. There's things that we want to do. Or where some of us are struggling in a really dark place. I know I was when my son died, and I just was in this deep grief mode where no one could get to me. I just was so numb. I wasn't feeling anything. And it was scary, because I just didn't care about anything. And I know sometimes you have to be in this place where you get either you hit rock bottom or you get so shocked and there where somebody or something comes along that just hits you like that and you go, whoa. And it's like this pattern interrupt, or it just makes you realize, like it wakes you up. It's like a switch goes off and somebody just comes and flips a switch back on and you realize that you can have those moments that are transformational. And it doesn't have to take years, even if you've been struggling for years. And that's one thing Tony Robbins taught me in all of the trainings and everything that we went through, is that somebody's life can be changed like that. It can be transformed in an instant, either in a horrible way or a beautiful and an incredible way. So that is so powerful. I just wanted to take a second to really highlight that. So congratulations for recognizing that and taking action. So, you took the workshop, you learned some basic tools. Tell us a little bit more about that experience and how you kind of were able to pull yourself out of that.
I think one of the biggest parts was the community. Just knowing that other people were struggling with the same kind of things, even to some more extremes. And, just seeing how everyone was at a different stage, and you could kind of see, where you were progressing. And I found that really helpful, and just knowing that it can get better. And, one of the hardest things is doing the work, right? Like, we can do, a couple sit-ups and a couple jogs and say, like, we're not losing weight or we're not getting fit. But it takes consistent effort, right? And that's the exact same thing with your mental health, with the tools to help stop the chatter, because the chatter is just, it's part of how we've evolved as humans. And, to have tools to interrupt those patterns and bring the control back to you instead of letting your mind just go. There's a quote about it and I can't think of it right now, but it's not, the mind is not it's a good servant, but not a good master, or something like that. I can't think of it offhand. I think we get so hijacked by certain patterns that we forget that there's a part of us that is still in control, and that we don't need to listen to those thoughts all the time. And I think sometimes we get stuck in believing all the thoughts that randomly go through our head, and we jump on a train that we didn't even want to get on.
Right.
Or
we used to call it cockroaches in the corner. You're always looking for the cockroaches in the corner and you're not even going over there. Like, stop shining the light in that corner because you're not going there. And I think it was, I don't remember now if it was the Dalai Lama or if it was Gandhi that said, you don't have to see the full staircase, just the next step. And I think that's so great for people that are especially in recovery, or just people just being good and loving themselves, because we beat ourselves up so hard. And if you think about, if another human being talked to us the way we talk to ourselves and some of the things we say to ourselves, we would smack them. And yet somehow we tolerate this self-loathing and self-abuse, that we all are a part of it. Like, none of us are immune to that. And so by having these tools, and this is what I love about what you've done, Leah. Not only did you write this book where you shared your story of, just growing up as a young girl that was abused, and trying to understand that confusing relationship between your parents and then your mother's suicide attempt, and all these things that were just creating a lot of trauma that as a young child would be very scary and difficult for anyone. And it's interesting because I found myself, even though I didn't grow up in the same type of household, I still related to your story and it still touched me. And the thing that stood out the most in that story that was so compelling is how your grandmother was so loving and kind and did all these beautiful things to make you feel special. And she had been the same mother to her daughter, who was your mom. But even though she was that amazing mother to your mom had her own independent struggles by being with an abusive man. So we can repeat different patterns, or we can choose different patterns that we end up in these types of situations. And sometimes people just stay and they get stuck. And you're just like, we learned about your mom in the book, and we see her, her life and the choices she made and the struggle that she was going through, but also how you became a mother who made different choices, and had all these influences of strong women in your life, in spite of that relationship with your father. So, there are people that will love this book no matter what type of background or history or family they grew up in, whether you're male or female. You're going to find things in here that you're going to relate to. You're going to see yourself in this family. Um, and I love that you have tools, but you also have a workbook, right? So you give people the safe space to work through these things and on their own, or like in a small group. Tell us a little bit about that too.
I found the workbook and journaling really important to include, just because as much as therapy is helpful, and I like to talk about, I didn't win the therapy lottery. I was in hospital for a few years, and outpatient, and I received a lot of different therapy from social workers, psychologists, all the ologists, art there, all these therapies, and I couldn't find my way out. But what I found healing through was writing and asking difficult questions of myself, and writing through stream of consciousness, or it was just important to have those tools to kind of explore what was going on in my head, to help me understand why I was going through what I was going through, and give it some structure. So yeah, I included the workbook just to help guide people through the process that helped me, and things that are daily habits that we can get into, and real conversations with ourselves. I met a new friend recently, and she started asking herself some of these questions, and she found herself, just in tears, because she had gone all her life without asking some of these basic questions, like, what is it I want? We're so busy pleasing other people that we don't stop and think, what do I want? I know that happened to me in about my 30s. When I just turned 30, I found myself, like, people asked me, like, oh, where do you want it? I didn't even know what I wanted, because I had lived my life so much for other people that I didn't even know what my own wants and needs were. So
I think that's very common for women. You hear a lot about it. I remember Lance Armstrong's wife wrote a book about that as well, like how she lost herself in this relationship, especially when you're with somebody that's a high profile person, and you go from being somebody's daughter to somebody's wife to somebody's mother, and then you don't really know, you don't recognize yourself anymore. And one of the things I wanted to share in your book is, this is on page 60. You said, though I spent over 2 years in and out of hospitals, 8 years in one form of therapy or another, diagnosis of anxiety disorder, PTSD, deep depression, disassociation, and ADHD, I had zero ideas of what any of that meant. No one told me what any of these things were or why I was experiencing them. What are the symptoms? How could I prevent it? How could I stop it when it was happening? Instead, I was put on medication to try and manage the outward symptoms of stress and emotion as a way to numb and carry on. This is a big problem. A lot of people are being misdiagnosed, and I'm not a doctor, not trying to be one, but a lot of people are misdiagnosed and given something as depression, and they're given a prescription medication, but they're not clinically depressed. It could be circumstantial. I know that when I went through the loss of my son, I literally had a doctor that said, stop coming here because you have anxiety and you have all these things. And if you're not willing to take the medication I'm giving you, then don't come back. Literally. And I'm like, I don't want to get hooked on prescription medication. In fact, I just heard something just today that scared the crap out of me. It said 1 in 3 women are on some type of prescription psychotropic drug like Xanax, or 1 in 3. That is crazy. So there's that many people, especially women, that are hurting, that are stressed out, and they're filling, instead of getting to the root of the issue, they're just glossing over with medication. And I'm not going to diminish somebody that has obviously the type of diagnosis where they need it. But I feel like we're popping them like candy, and people are looking at it as an actual solution that can ultimately create more issues. So I love that you have these tools that are natural, that can really help heal people, like self-healing techniques and tools, even for people who are struggling with therapists and aren't getting the outcome.
Yeah, to that point, Melanie, I feel like we need to treat mental health and how to take care of ourselves, how to talk to ourselves, how to not just take care of our bodies, but our minds. We need to treat that like as important as mathematics and learning how to read. Like when we don't have those tools, our mind can run amok. And, you know, even with the best parents and scenarios, you know, no one's perfect and no one has the perfect set of tools that will, you know, keep people from trauma. Everyone's had some sort of trauma throughout their life, and it's how we get through that, you know, how we move on from that. You know, I just think I was really triggered. I have to share this story. I love Brene Brown. She's been instrumental in just learning about vulnerability and being about shame and how that affects us. But in her last book, Atlas, I was really triggered by how much she emphasized therapy. And yes, therapy has a place, but I feel like we're waiting for the knight in shining armor and we're not learning the tools to save ourselves. You know, yes, therapy is fantastic, but I feel like therapy is kind of like a lottery. Like, one, you need to have the want and be okay with going to therapy, because there's a lot of baggage around that for some people. You know, it's not accepted in the family. It's not going to work for me. You know, accessibility. Do you have time to go to therapy? You know, where do you have to go to find that? 3, affordability. Like, not everyone can afford to go to therapy, and if you go on the free therapy, the waiting lists are years long. And then you have compatibility, whether it's like the method or with the person itself, and you finally get in, and then you're left dealing with it on your own anyways, because you just didn't jive with that person, or their method was not for you, or whatever it is.
Or if they are helpful, then, you know, you get dependent on it. And then if you're going off the rails at 3 a.m., they're not available. Go figure. You know, where are they when you need them?
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
And I love what you said. You said when you saw this course, this workshop, you know, that was basically the calming the storm within, and there were 4 things that you said that were your takeaways, and that what you were experiencing was called anxiety. So you finally felt like something aligned with the name, that it was like, that's exactly what I have. It's not all these other things. It was masking as that. That you're not alone in your struggle, and that anxiety is real and debilitating, and that you had a choice. So for those of you out there that may be feeling this, and you recognize these symptoms, and some of these things that you're hearing today are resonating with you, the beauty is that there is hope for that. And there are tools that are available. And you talked about 6 exercises that helped you overcome and just be aware. Because a lot of times self-awareness and just understanding that it's happening is half the battle. And just being aware, and I would say, like, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Because if you can catch yourself in the middle of doing something, and you can have a tool to walk yourself down from that, then it can make a big difference in whether your whole day is out of control or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the tools that I found really helpful in the beginning, when the chatter was really loud and you felt that tightness in your chest, and I don't know about other people, but like, I would feel like, I call them bees running up and down my legs and my arms, and it's just like an overall body sensation. I think at that point, my anxiety was already ramped up. So the tool I used for that, I would wear an elastic, kind of just like this. And when I would catch it, I just snap it and just bring myself back. Or if I wasn't sure where my mind was at, I would just a light snap, just to practice awareness. Like you said, Melanie, if you don't know what's happening, how can you stop it? So that was the first tool that I used. That was really helpful. Once I graduated from, I was noticing more on my own. I didn't need the elastic as much. I was one of those people that would fall asleep really easy, but be like wide awake at 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Just my mind was running. So I learned to keep a notepad by my table, my night table, and a pen. And I would just start writing down everything, every single worry that I had. Because worry lives so much bigger in our heads. And when we can actually see it on paper, it's like, oh, okay, that's not that big of a deal. Or, oh, I can move that around. Or, it just helps condense what's going on up there. And then you can kind of take action steps. Do I need to worry about this now? And it also emptied your mind and gave it a place to sit for a while, let you get some rest. And I would tell myself, I'm going to deal with that in the morning. I've got it down, so I don't need to worry about it. It's written down, so I won't forget, because I can be really forgetful sometimes. So that was another tool that was really helpful. Another one was, what's the worst case scenario? And some people can argue that this can go awry, but I feel like I use the example of a car accident. It wasn't quite an accident. I spun out on an icy road on the way home, driving with my kids. And, I felt really anxious in that moment because we were driving along. I had my 3 kids in the car, and we just spun out right under the bridge. And we ended up facing oncoming traffic, and it was dark and icy, and the car just died. The whole thing just died. So thankfully we were kind of on the shoulder, and we could see oncoming traffic. But to help with that anxiety, I imagined we could have rolled over. We could have hit someone else. We could have hit the bridge. We could ended up right into the deep ditch. One of us could have gotten really badly hurt. So seeing the worst case of what could have happened helped put perspective into where we actually were. So that's another tool that was helpful. Another favorite one, I might be dating myself here, but if you watched Sylvester and Tweety show as a kid, I used to love the big stop sign they'd put up. So I would visualize the big stop sign coming up when I could feel it coming on, because once I had the awareness, I was writing it down. I was more aware of what I was actually thinking. So when I felt that ramp up start, I would imagine that stop sign and then think, how can I reframe this so I stay in control? Because as much as we want to control everything, we can't control everything. Things aren't going to always work out the way we want them, but it's really reframing, what can I control in this specific situation that will help me? So that really helped, or imagining like throwing out thoughts into a bin that, thoughts that don't serve you. So that's number 4. And then the 5th one, and this is one that every day I do, because it keeps my mind healthy and just active. But it's just moving your body. Just when I feel that anxiousness, I find moving my body gets rid of those bee feelings in my limbs, and just making exercise a part of your everyday routine, whether it's walking or dancing. Do something that you really enjoy to do, so it doesn't feel like you're working, right? So, or even just change your environment. I found being in certain rooms would make me more anxious. Sometimes I can get really busy doing certain tasks, and then one room will be especially more untidy than other rooms. So those rooms would make me feel more anxious. So it's removing myself from that room, or getting out of the kitchen, going outside, get some fresh air, get your blood flowing. I know one of my favorite things with Tony Robbins is changing your state, right? Moving yourself, and cold. Number 6 was a cold. Sometimes I would splash myself in the face with cold water, or under the sink, under the tap, just on your wrists. And I found that had a calming effect and helped stop the chatter, not stop it, but slow it down and give me something else to focus on. So,
Right. Just a pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
And, you know, the first step to change is awareness. So it's the people who don't think they have a problem that tend to spiral because they're living in a very unconscious way. They're not, you know, living with the fact that they've got this problem and oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's probably the two worst words in the English language is I'm fine, because you're never just fine. Either you're fantastic or you're horrible, you know? And I think that's the thing, is a lot of people just get so used to saying that I'm fine, you know? And so I really think, I think that there's some great tools there, and I encourage you guys to get the book. There's links here on the page that you can click to see the link. Also, your website is Ligia, spelled Ligia, which is right there, not the dashes, but just under your name here. So you can go there with that name.com. We also put the links to your book and your workbook. And is there anything else? I know a lot of times when we have people on the show, we want to offer like a special gift or something for all of you who are watching. And thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe. If you guys could please subscribe to our YouTube channel, that would be really, really helpful, because this is a new show for us and it's a new channel. So we definitely would love for you to give us some feedback and let us know your thoughts, maybe special guests that you'd love to see on the show, or a subject that you want to see us talk about, right? We'd love to be here for you and give you as much support as we can. So Ligia, is there anything that you want to let people know about today?
Yeah, I have so along with the workbook, there's a really great, it's a daily journal. It's got a panda on it. And I chose the panda because it kind of represents our light side and our dark side coexisting and making something cute. So I thought it was a neat mascot. So what it is, it's a little journal that you do every day. The workbook is kind of like when you want to go for a deep dive, but I really like the journal because there's exercises that I do to this day that I find really helpful in moving forward. And that's 3 things every day that you're grateful for, or 3 wins, and then 3 goals for your next day. And that's it. If you get one of those, then it's already a win and you're already moving forward. What's cool about it is that as you go through a few days, you can look back and it's a great reminder of the things that you did do, your ta-da list instead of your to-do list, and really emphasize and celebrate what you did achieve. For people that want to go a little further and explore how we can clean our dirty glasses, I do offer an hour, I call it ICU coaching, just where we can chat and explore how your glasses might be dirty and how we can get those cleaned up and help bring awareness and give you some tools to get them cleaned up for you.
So if people are interested in that, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
On my website, there is a link there. I'm also on social media, anything at Ligia, spelled Ligia, no dashes, just all together. I do have a YouTube channel as well. Again, Ligia, spelled Ligia. There I share stories or just some tips. One of the videos I've gotten most comments on is changing your environment for success. And it's really about having little reminders as cues to help you bring yourself back to the awareness and the way you want to think, setting up your environment so you win. So those are some places.
And I put the links are in the chat as well, so you guys can see those. Hopefully that'll show up on the replay as well. Well, I know we've talked about a lot today. Tell us a little bit about your book journey, because I know you mentioned at the beginning this was very cathartic for you, but it was also very emotional, and how you had started a lot of different drafts and doubt. A lot of people have self-doubts about, I want to share my story. It's very vulnerable. How do I share my story without exposing other people in a negative light, but sharing my journey, that kind of thing. So how did you reconcile those things as a writer in your head? And what was it that finally made you say, now I'm going to get it done? I'm really going to do it.
Um, I think it was just the fact that it kept coming to me. Like, it didn't matter what projects that I tried to embark on. Um, it was always that nagging thing in the back of my head that, I wanted to do it so much, but I didn't have the right framework. I didn't know what the story was. I'd start writing one thing and it'd go a different way. And I didn't have the structure, I think. And what really helped me, I think I saw you on a Tony Robbins, your group, and you talked about that process. And I just felt like that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to have a guide, to help figure out, how do I get this story that I have so much burning in me out of me, so it makes sense and can help in the world. That you know I feel like that was given to me for a reason, to do something with it. And um, when I found your program, it just, one, the community was immense in my process, just because it helped me connect with other people that knew exactly how I was feeling. And again, we're at different stages of the journey. So I remember another author, her name's Trish. She came on maybe a month or two after I did. And I heard all the stuff that I was struggling. I was already 3-4 weeks into it. But I heard myself in her, and it motivated me when I was at those hard parts to um, be that example for her, to say, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. You just got to ride that difficult storm, because she had a very touching story too about her son. And
Mm-hmm.
it
And you
was,
had that accountability kind of
yeah,
with each other. In fact,
absolutely.
Trish Simonson, in fact, her book came out, became a best-selling book, and she was just elected as a local official in her hometown. And she said, I never ever dreamed I would be doing this if it wasn't for my book. And so, you think about, how the opportunities and all the doors that have opened since you've written your book, become a best-selling author. You've got your ebook, your print book, your audiobook, you've built a website, you've put all these things together. I mean, it's a little bit surreal to go, I can't believe I did all this.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is, and I've had some people reach out to speak to their groups too. And that's another big part of my journey, is becoming a public speaker, because I was so shy, and my anxiety had such a hold on me. I couldn't even look people in the eye. And now to be at a point where I look forward to that, and I want to share that story, and I want to encourage others. And just to share that light, because when we bring the light out in others, it's just such a better world. And what light can they bring out in others? It just spreads, right? So yeah, that was just so important to have that accountability. And I had a mentor that helped me go through every week. And it was hard to give excuses and give up on it when you had people already done what you were doing.
Well,
So
and I
it
think,
really
I
motivated
think,
you.
I think progress makes people happy. When we feel like our life is growth. I mean, the secret to life is growth. And you look at nature, and if something isn't growing and adapting constantly and changing, it's dying. So it's like, we feel the same way as human beings. We get so busy thinking that's going to give us growth, but sometimes it's in that stillness and that mess kind of in the middle where the biggest growth happens. And if we didn't have those circumstances, we wouldn't have the outcome and the growth. We wouldn't have learned the things that we've learned. And I think when you start to take your life story, like so many of us, say, I want to write a memoir, or I want to share something I've learned, or maybe they want to build a business using a book and like solving something for someone else. We all have become our own clients at the beginning, right? We had to solve something for ourselves as well. And what happens is, we have our own journey as a hero, and sometimes we have a guide that helps us overcome something. And then it's so beautiful to see the full circle where you become the guide. And I know you've been involved in our group and you've helped so many other authors as well. And whether you realize it or not, you've inspired so many people. And, it's interesting to see with any story, right? You have to have that journey. You have the hero who has a guide, and there's usually a villain in every story. And so it's just really helping people structure that so they understand how to write their story, how to structure it, how to build the outline so that it comes out of their head the way they want it to. And there are formulas, and it doesn't have to just be a crapshoot. There is a science behind it. You don't have to be a writer. There's a lot of people that don't consider themselves a writer. Robert Kiyosaki is one. He will tell you he's not a writer. His book is like written for an 8-year-old, and it's yet he's made millions of dollars off of his book and his coaching by not being a writer. And so the trick is to be able to take all these things that are in your head and extract them out and put them into this blueprint and this formula that really does help. So if you want to write a book, right, then the main reasons that most people want to write a book is, number one, they just want to share a story, right? Or it could be a lead generation. It could be a client conversion model. It could be a speaker platform. It could be a children's book. We have people that are retired, like AJ is a retired teacher. And she thought, okay, I'm retired, but she loves kids and she loves sharing stories with kids. So even those stories, even though that's fiction, they all have a redemptive quality. There's a message behind every one of the books that we do as a company. And I can put in in the chat here in our website, but if you go to mydefiningmoments.com, it's with an S, there's an application there. You can hang out on the website for a little bit. We literally just got our new website up today. Woohoo! Talk about your to-do list. Thank you, Drew, for all the hard work on that, who made all of this possible and talked me into doing this show, and did all the hard work behind the scenes and isn't here on camera to like get the accolades. But and then just our whole team in general. Thank you guys so much for being supportive and helping us get all of this done. And really everything we do is for you guys and for you, Leah, and for our authors, because we could sit here and I could write another book and 100 books, but the impact of helping other people give birth to this beautiful idea of this book and get it out in the world, right, is the most rewarding thing. Because I can't tell you how many people have come to us and said, I am alive today because of your book, right? And I'm sure you've had that experience. What was that like, getting your book done, holding it for the first time, and getting this incredible feedback from people?
It was overwhelming. I think just the feedback that I got initially with the ebook was a lot. But I think the happiest day was the day I actually held my book. It was such a different feeling, and it just lit up a fire in me. And, I just feel so grateful that I went through the process, and it wasn't easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is, right? And it was amazing to be surrounded by a community of people, rooting you on and saying, like, seeing their journeys and that you can do it. And it's just amazing after all this time of saying to do it, that it's here, it's done. And
Yay!
I can be happier.
I remember one of our authors was like holding it and her husband was videotaping. She's like, it's a real book. It's a real book,
Yeah.
baby. And it was like, she was holding a baby, like, I'm a real boy, like Pinocchio. And it was so funny. We were laughing because I remember I still have the video from years ago with my kids there with me, and I was bawling my eyes out. And it's still such an incredible, even with multiple books, that the impact of that is just like hard to explain unless you've experienced it, and I love the fact that, not only can you guys buy books or you can read books, but you can actually connect with people that wrote the books, that are mentors, that are coaches and consultants that can walk you through something. So if you read the book and go, wow, this is amazing, I want more information, or I want to connect in a bigger way. That's really what we're building, is ultimately this big platform for self-help junkies like me and like you and everybody else out there that sucks this stuff up, but also, personal and professional development. You know, my business has become the greatest personal development tool I've ever had. It checks me every day, and I have to ride that wave of fear every day and get out of my comfort zone. Like doing a live TV show and technology. Like, I'm blonde. I don't know technology. Come on. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And what are we going to talk about? And what if no one watches? What if no one likes it? And what if I have broccoli in my teeth? You know, all the things, the same things that people have fear about books. And then once you get it out there and you start doing it and you get that feedback from people, it just makes it all worth it. Like everything that you put into this book, this process, the blood, sweat, and tears is always worth it, you know? So thank you for everything, Leah. And I'm just so proud of you. Just such a hard worker. Like you've just done everything exactly like we told you. And you're a star student and you've just like gone for it. So congratulations on getting it all done. Very excited for you. And one more thing I was going to say. So the reason that personal development is so important, in my opinion, is, you know, you could teach somebody how to lose weight or, you know, get their ex back or stay married or, you know, make extra money. But even if you help them fix that one aspect, maybe they lose weight, but their relationship is still struggling, or they're still not quite making the money they want to make, or they're putting up with an abusive relationship or whatever. The idea is that, you know, you can fix one aspect, but the thing that I love about personal development is it works on all of those. When you work on yourself and you repair that relationship with yourself, right? It repairs every relationship in your world. And it just is such a huge change, but it's such a small step to start and make that little step that's going to make a big, big difference. So I'm hoping that all of y'all that are still here with us, not asleep, that you're feeling energized and you feel inspired by these stories today, and that you see yourself in some of these things. Maybe you learn some new tools and some new tricks. So I want to encourage you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's Defining Moments on YouTube. We also have a couple of Facebook pages and other things that you can certainly follow us, share your own story. And if you're interested in writing a book or being featured like Leah and some of our other authors, feel free to reach out to us. It's an application process, so we can kind of get to know a little bit more about you and make sure it's a good fit for us and for you. Hey, Mandy, I see Mandy saying, I'm next. Mandy, oh my gosh, Mandy was my friend and personal assistant for over 20 years. And when I first started my magazines in this city in Fresno 20 years ago, she and I were sitting on the floor. We didn't even have furniture, and we were trying to work from our laptops. And eventually we took over that whole floor of that office, like the entire 8th floor. And it was amazing what you can do with just an idea. And Mandy's a great example of that. I wouldn't be doing any of the things I'm doing now without that foundation of support that she gave me 20 years ago. So it's cool to see you here, Mandy. And you are next. It's about time. You can write all kinds of books, just don't write about me. Just kidding. So Leah, is there anything else you want to share with our viewers before we sign off for today?
I just want you all to remember that you are far more powerful than you give yourself credit for. And it's okay if you need to take off those glasses and give them a wipe. And maybe you don't realize you're wearing glasses even, but from time to time, those glasses get dirty and we need just a little cleaning to get a better perspective of our life.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here, Leah, and for taking the time to be with us and just finishing your book, like finishing it. I mean, think of the people that are alive today because of your book and the impact that your book has made on them. Like, it's scary to think if you would have held that in out of fear. And I talk to people every day. I'm such a book nerd. This is why I love doing the show, because I love sharing books with people. I love giving books as gifts, and I love helping people find real solutions to real problems. And it's real people that have experienced these changes and transformed their own lives that are sharing things with you. And, you know, the idea is none of us really know the power of what we can do until we do it. And you won't discover that if you don't take action on it. So don't let fear rob you. I always say fear will rob you of more than any ex in your life ever could. And I want to end our show on a quote. And this is how I knew that Leah was going to be the perfect guest, because I had planned at the end of every show, I love leaving a book quote or a quote about writers and books as well to encourage you. And I had already picked this quote out because it's one of my favorites. And when I was going back over Leah's book today, I found it right here in her book. So it was meant to be. And this is from Anne Frank, of all people. And she says, paper has more patience than people. Paper has more patience than people. Very, very profound and true wisdom. Thank you, Anne Frank. That's why journaling and some of these other things, just getting things out of your head and putting it on paper, makes you feel less emotional because you're processing it and getting it out there. So we want to be a catalyst. We want to help you get through that process. If you need help with anything, please reach out. We're here for you. We can connect you with different types of people, whether it's therapists or whether it's coaches or consultants. Don't struggle alone. If you need help with any of these things, there's other tools and other people we can certainly plug you in with a lot of free resources as well. And if you want help writing a book, visit our website at mydefiningmoments.com. Fill out a quick application. There's free trainings and other things on there as well to get you inspired. And join us next week for John Warner, who is my dad and is also going to be sharing. He has written at 86. He is now working on his 5th book. This was his first book. Volume 2 is coming out in 2 weeks. He's already written volume 3 and 4. And he's already got his fans going, where's your next book? So he's like, chop, chop, we got to get this done. I swear, he's like not even retired. And he's like a book slave driver, but I can't keep up with him. And he has taught Sunday school for 50 years and has some incredible information to share. So I just wanted to say thanks again, you all, for being here. Thank you, Leah. So excited to have this space. We will see you next week live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And love you all so much. Thank you all for being here, and take care, everyone. Till we see you next time. Bye.